In this video, we are going to be adding and subtracting integers using rules. So your I can statement is I can add and subtract integers by using the addition rules. So we are going to look at how we can change subtraction into an addition expression by adding the opposite. So anytime we have a subtraction problem, we can change it to addition. So for example, let's say I have A minus B. Well, I can change this subtraction into an addition problem by adding the opposite. So here I want this to become a positive, or a plus, I'm sorry. I want the minus to become a plus, so I'm going to add the opposite. So plus, the B was positive, it becomes negative. So my A minus B now becomes A plus negative B. Okay, now let's look at one other example. So here I have A minus negative B. So if I'm going to add the opposite, this is going to become a plus. So my minus becomes a plus. The opposite of negative B is positive B. So this is going to become a positive. So here I'm going to add the opposite. So A minus negative B becomes A plus B. Okay, so let's look at three different cases. Case number one, a positive plus a positive. Here the sign will stay positive and you will add the two numbers together. So let's look at an example. Here I have 5 minus negative 8, and again I'm going to add the opposite because it was a subtraction problem, so I made the subtraction an addition problem. The negative 8 became a positive 8. So here I have positive 5. Here I now have a positive 8. So I'm going to write above it positive plus positive. That tells me the sign is going to stay positive. So my answer is going to be positive, and I'm going to add. 5 plus 8 I know is 13. So I have positive 13. Let's look at case number 2, a negative plus a negative. So the sign stays negative and I'm going to add. So here's an example, negative 7 minus 9. Here is my subtraction problem. I'm going to change it into an addition problem. I'm going to make that a plus, and now my 9 becomes a negative. So here I have negative 7 and negative 9. So I have a negative plus a negative. So the sign stays negative and I'm going to add. So I already know it's negative. 7 plus 9 will give me 16. And again, it is negative. So negative 16. Okay, let's look at one more case. This is where I can have a positive plus a negative or a negative plus positive. It is the same, okay? So let's look at what I will get is the sign of the larger absolute value and subtract. Okay, let's look at an example to see what I mean by sign of larger absolute value. So here I have negative 2 minus negative 6. I'm going to first get rid of the minus, the subtraction, by changing it into an addition. So here it's a plus. Therefore, this becomes a positive 6 instead of a negative 6. Here I have negative 2. So I know this is negative. Here I have positive 6. So I'm going to write right above it, negative plus positive. Okay, so again, a negative plus positive, I'm going to use the sign of the larger absolute value. Well, what that means is I'm not looking at the negative, I'm looking at the absolute value. So this absolute value is 2, this absolute value is 6. Which number is greater, 2 or 6? Well, 6 is greater. So my answer is going to be positive. Now what I need to do is subtract. So 6 minus 2 will give me 4. And again, it is going to be positive because that's the greater absolute value. So my answer is positive 4. All right, now we're going to do 8 your turn problems. You can pause the video before each problem and then compare it with my answers by hitting the play button after, okay? So if you want to go ahead and hit pause, right now would be a good time. All right, so I have -9 plus -2. The nice thing about this problem is it is an addition problem. So since it's not subtracting, I don't need to add the opposite. So I'm going to look right here and I see that this is -9. I'm going to look over here and I see that I have -2. So that's a negative plus a negative. This is case number 2. So previous slide, case 2 said that a negative plus a negative, I'm going to keep the same sign. So my sign stays negative and add. So I'm going to have a negative. 9 plus 2 will give me 11. So my answer is -11. All right, for number 2, go ahead and pause it if you want to pause. All right, so I have 5 minus 17. Here I am subtracting, so I am going to add the opposite. So this becomes an addition problem. My positive 17 now becomes -17. So here I'm going to box this, and this is a positive 5. Here I have -17. So that means I have a positive being added to a negative. This is case number 3. I'm going to use the sign of the larger absolute value and subtract. Well, when I look at the absolute value, this is 5, this is 17. 17 is greater than 5. So that tells me my answer is going to be negative. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is subtract. 17 minus 5 will give me 12. And again, my answer is negative, so -12. Okay, so if you want to pause, right now would be a good time to pause for your turn number 3. Okay, so I have -12 minus 8. Again, here I am subtracting, so I want to add the opposite. This becomes a plus, and now this positive 8 becomes -8. Here I have -12 plus -8. So I have a negative plus negative. This is case number 2, where the sign stays negative and add. So I know it's negative. I take 12 and I add it to 8, and I get an answer of -20. Okay, problem number 4. Go ahead and hit pause. All right, here I have -19 minus -3. Again, I'm subtracting, so I'm going to add the opposite. This becomes a plus. This becomes a +3. So here I have -19. Here I have +3. So this is a negative plus positive. This is case number 3. I'm going to take the sign of the larger absolute value and subtract. So this is 19. This is 3. The larger absolute value is 19. That tells me my answer is going to be negative. And then I'm going to subtract. 19 minus 3 will give me 16. So again, my answer is negative, so -16. All right, number 5, go ahead and hit pause. Okay, so I have -12 plus 21. Now, I'm going to go ahead and box already because this is not a subtraction problem, so it's already has an addition. So here I have -12. Here I have +21. So I have a negative plus positive. This is case number 3, where I'm going to take the sign of the larger absolute value and subtract. So this is 12. This is 21. 21 is greater than 12, so that tells me my answer is going to be positive. And now I'm going to subtract. 21 minus 12 will give me 9. All right, we're on your turn number 6, so go ahead and hit pause. Okay, so for this problem, I am subtracting. I have 7 minus -11, sorry. So here I'm going to add the opposite. My subtraction becomes an addition problem. My -11 is now +11. So here I have +7. I also have +11. So this is your first problem where I have a positive plus a positive. So this is case number 1. The sign stays positive and add. So again, it's positive. 7 plus 11 I know is 18. So again, my answer is positive 18. Okay, we're on problem number 7. If you want to pause, go ahead and pause. Here I have negative 8 minus negative 12. So since it is a subtraction problem, I'm going to add the opposite. This becomes positive, or I'm sorry, an addition problem. This becomes positive. It was negative 12. Now it is positive 12. Here I have negative 8 plus positive 12. So I'm going to write right above it a negative plus a positive. This is case number 3. I'm going to take the sign of the larger absolute value and subtract. So here I have 8, here I have 12. 12 is greater than 8, so that tells me my answer is going to be positive. And now I'm going to subtract. 12 minus 8 is going to give me 4. Okay, we're on the last problem. Go ahead and pause. All right, so here I have negative 7 minus 4. Since it is a subtraction problem, I'm going to change it to addition. So here I'm going to add. Now it becomes negative 4 instead of positive 4. Here I have negative 7 plus negative 4. So I have a negative plus a negative. This is case number 2. The sign stays negative and I'm going to add. So I'm going to keep the negative. 7 plus 4 will give me 11. So keep the negative and my answer is negative 11. And that is it.